everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. This is the Good Witch podcast, where we break down the episodes of the Good Witch each. It'll be each bi-weekly for us this season, and we are here to do our Good Witch season 7 preview show. So this is where we are going to talk about the previous season, upcoming season. It's going to be super fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and today I have with me big Good Witch fan and friend of the podcast, Randy Carter's here, and he's going to be our co-host for Good Witch this season. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, this is so cool. You have been on our show twice before, and you are an editor, film editor and director.
Correct.
It's been a little while, so why don't you introduce yourself to our audience that may not be as familiar with you?
Sure. My name is Randy Carter. I'm a film editor. I've edited several Hallmark shows, which is where your audience would probably know me from. Um, uh, Probably a half a dozen Hallmark shows. I've done Christmas Sister Swap, Broadcasting Christmas, several others, lots of Christmas movies, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan of your podcast for a long time, and also a fan of Good Witch. So I'm very excited to be a part of this.
Well, when I was thinking about who could we get, because Amy isn't able to this season, George is not able to this season, who were our kind of normal co-hosts, and you were one of the first people who came to my mind. That I not only I knew you were a fan of the show, but I knew you were a fan of the podcast, and you were kind enough to agree.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I thank you so much for inviting me. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So, do you have anything recently that you were able to work on, or was quarantine busy for you, or not that busy?
We had a few months down, but after that, I mean, things picked up pretty quickly again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about it.
Sure.
I don't have anything for Hallmark coming out this year,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, but I have a couple of Lifetime Christmas movies that are coming out. One that I'm just wrapping up now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about it.
Right. That's fine.
But there'll be a couple of more coming out shortly. So
Yeah.
I stayed pretty busy, thankfully. I mean,
Yeah.
only a few months were we really down before production picked up again.
Yeah. Do you stick mostly to movies and TV movies, or do you do episodic television?
I mean, mainly I've done television movies. I'm not opposed to doing episodic. I've done a few in the past. It's a little bit of a different animal, just in terms of, for example, for Hallmark, almost all of their episodics are done in Canada. So all of the production and post is done up in Canada. So I don't really have an opportunity to work on those. Although I would, if anybody wants to call me up, I'm available.
We'll put all the information in the description. What got you interested in Hallmark, but particularly The Good Witch, in watching it?
Well, The Good Witch, I've been a fan of Catherine Bell ever since she was on JAG. I watched that show all the time and became a fan of hers. And then for some reason, I missed her when she was on Army Wives. I just never got into that show for some reason. And then, funnily enough, I wasn't even sort of aware of Good Witch until they had like 2 or 3 movies under their belt. And then I think it might have been Good Witch's Family or Good Witch's Charm was the first one I saw.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized, this is like the 3rd or 4th or whatever it was of the movies. So I ended up watching the previous ones and just sort of fell in love with the show. And I've been watching ever since. I mean, long before it was even a series, when it was just, a movie every year, I was watching those.
Yeah. What do you think is special about the show? What's some of your favorite things about the show?
It's the characters. It's the characters in the show that make it what it is. Part of it's the magic of the show. And I know there's a lot of discussion about like how much quote unquote real magic should there be and how much of it is just, her intuition or whatever. I mean, I think you go beyond that. I actually don't have an opinion about how much magic, quote unquote, they should use. It's the heart and the soul of the characters and how everyone is always trying to do the best for everybody else. That's what I think drives people to the show.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so too. And we'll talk about it, but really I feel like last season, once they had to sort of move away from Grace, I feel like they had more magic than ever before.
They certainly have had more. They, early on, the magic was always, it was always a question of is she or isn't she a witch, right? That was
Yeah.
the kind of the thing that they were doing. And for the longest time, it was like, well, she could be a witch, or it could just be intuition, and she sort of knows what the best thing is for people. But you're right. In the last season, the last couple seasons, but specifically last season,
Mhm.
especially with the introduction of Joy, I mean, I think they've laid it right out there that the Merriwick women have some
Yeah.
sort of supernatural thing that's in their genes as part of the family, and I have
Yeah,
a feeling we're going to see more of that next season.
I think so because if you think about particularly with the curse, like it actually makes her not be able to talk, Abigail to be able to talk at points. It's actually like physically limiting in ways that were more than just sort of intuitive charm as it was for a long time.
Right, and they did more specific things like when Joy was playing darts because she was trying to win that clock, and she
Right.
she was using her powers, in a bad way, and so Cassie, sort of overrode that with a little bit of her power to cause that dart to fall. And I mean, it's very obvious that they're trying to say that there are actual supernatural abilities that these women
Yeah.
have. Um, Also, there was this whole thing where Joy had a pearl necklace, a family pearl necklace on for like an episode, and she kind of lost her intuition or lost her ability to read people until that necklace
Oh,
came off.
true. Yeah.
So I don't think they're skirting it any longer. They've kind of laid it out there that there is some sort of supernatural thing going on.
Yeah. There are all kinds of supernatural magic items. Pearl necklace, the ruby, that they had that shrubbery plant in
Right,
one episode.
right.
Do you remember that they had that?
Well, they had the Merriwick. What was it? The Merriwick flower. What was it called? Was that all it was called? The Merriwick.
Yeah, yeah.
And
There's
when it wouldn't bloom, like she lost her powers.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's quite the you almost need an almanac at this point. Also, we need a guidebook to all of Cassie's friends from college. We have
Yes.
got so many friends from
She must have been in
college.
college for many, many, many years. Or either that or she was like the most popular woman on campus and
Yeah,
everyone just assumes that she's their best friend,
yeah.
you know?
Well, that's probably the case. I mean, Cassie is probably pretty likable, so probably pretty popular.
I hope so.
Yeah. So overall, what did you think of last season? Did you feel like it was a strong season or not as
Well,
good as others?
I what I did like about it, and because I've been asking for this, I mean, not to anybody except myself, talking about the
Right.
show, but what I've been hoping that they would do is more season-long arcs, which they
Mhm.
hadn't really done too much of in the past. And they had two sort of things going on through the whole season. They had the curse, and
Yeah.
they had Stephanie and Adam, really Adam with his surgery that he had to have and all of that, and that sort of carried all throughout the season. So I was happy they did that. I'm not sure the execution of the curse and the search for the solution to the curse was handled quite as well as it could have been. It felt a little meandering sometime, as if they were kind of making it up as they went along, as opposed to laying out the whole season, where they were going to go right from the beginning. Um, but I'm glad that that was the sort of format that they're now going with, and it seems like maybe they're going to do that this next season as well. I certainly hope so, because I like it when they, you know, early on, if you remember, every episode was just like, oh, a new person shows up to be a guest at Grey House. They have a problem.
Yeah.
Cassie sort of fixes the problem, and away they go, and you never see them again. And that's fine. But how many times can you do that? I much prefer stories not about guest characters, but about
Yeah.
our core cast that we know and love.
Yeah. I liked this season well enough. I think what frustrated me a little bit was that I felt like they kept introducing interesting arcs and then like not doing anything with it. That you'd have interesting things with Martha, like particularly with her not being the mayor, and then they kind of
Right, but
made it
that was the previous season, was it
was the
not?
previous season.
Yeah.
And but like also with Donovan's mother, like, oh, this is gonna be super dishy and super fun, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. And it's like they kind of lose their nerve. But particularly last season, with I felt like they were building all this stuff with Joy and Carter. And
Totally.
I loved Carter. I thought he was so great. And and then all of a sudden he was just gone. It was so weird to
I
me.
I actually just recently, to prep for this, I did a rewatch of the whole season, so it's all fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
And when all of a sudden Carter just disappears, and then her friend shows up, like, "Oh, here's your new carpenter." Her friend Donna, I think was
It
her
was
name.
so weird.
And I was like, "Well, what happened to Carter?" I actually went back and looked at the previous episode again because I remember there was that whole thing about that woman was like offered him a job in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
but he didn't take it. I mean, he said, "Look, oh, we'll get somebody else to do the LA. I'm going to stay here to finish
Yeah.
the job with Joy." And then he just disappeared. And if for some reason, like the actor all of a sudden wasn't available or something like that, I understand, but you should have, even if in dialogue, wrapped it up, like
Right.
said, "Oh, Donna, you can be the new carpenter since Carter left to go to LA," or whatever story you want to make up about him.
Yeah, because they were building all these things where they were helping each other find dates for the party and they were kind of giving each other makeovers, and it was all building to this like in the world of romantic comedies to this kind of climax where they were going to get together, it seemed like.
Right.
And then, yeah, all of a sudden he was gone and they were off to Chicago. And then we have this Donna woman there who was kind of irritating. And I was just like,
Kind of.
what? What?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Well, I don't mind them bringing Donna in, and again, if there was outside reasons why Carter had to be dropped, like actors not
Yeah.
available, or maybe they just decided halfway through, oh, we're not liking where their storyline is going. Although I liked where it was going, you
Yeah.
can't just drop it without a single like explanation.
Exactly. Yeah. I think he was on the show The 100.
He what
And
the
I don't,
100? Yeah, one of my
yeah. And
favorite shows.
so I don't know if that caused the conflict, but yeah, you gotta sum it up somehow. You can't just have the character just gone.
I know that was a really blatant one. They've done it a few
Yeah,
other times, as you said, but usually it's like you don't know. You presume it's going to be a big story, and then maybe it just doesn't develop. So you think, okay, maybe I thought it was going to be a bigger story than it was meant to be. Carter was a huge part of that of
yeah,
Joy's storyline there, and then just ignored as if he never existed.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
very weird.
Yeah, it was very weird, and it was just a loss because I mean, I loved interviewing Jason, the actor who played Carter. I loved interviewing him on the podcast. He was so charming, and and so I really that added to it. But I just really liked his character, and I thought it was really fun, and
They
I
were
would have.
great. They were great
Mhm.
together. I mean,
Yeah,
I have to say, just overall for last season, I love Joy as an
yeah,
addition. I thought what they were going to do, and they were actually smarter than I gave them credit for. I thought what was going to happen when Bailey left. I thought to myself, there's going to be an orphan that's going to show up at Grey House,
yeah,
who like, or and Cassie's going to end up adopting her as like a foster child or something, just to get another teenager on the
yeah.
show. Um,
I wouldn't put that still by.
Right, but they didn't do it. They brought in
No.
Joy, which is, obviously not a
Yeah,
teenager and like has a whole different dynamic, and I give them credit for that. It's not the same show as when it started, but it's
yeah.
grown, and
Yeah, that's been nice. The bond between the 3 cousins and, Joy trying to find out more about her mother and all of that. I think that that's worked pretty well, and I think pretty much everything with Abigail and Donovan has worked pretty well, I would
well,
say. I think they have pretty good
I
chemistry and
I agree. Abigail is actually one of my favorite characters on the show,
Hmm.
mainly because I love the progress that she's made. I mean, she started as the villain in one of the movies. I mean, she was like the antagonist. And then she came onto this show, and initially, lots of people didn't like her. She was very sort
Yeah.
of, she was using her powers sort of in a negative way, back before they were so clear that they were, in fact, powers. But she has grown, and it doesn't feel forced. It feels like she's just naturally, because she still has a little bit of an edge to her, but is still trying to do good things for people, but with a little bit of sass, which I appreciate. Um, I like her with Donovan a lot. I think that relationship is great, and I'm glad that they've wrapped up the curse and they're engaged now, right? He asked, they got engaged, so hopefully we'll see a wedding this season or something.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, it'd be interesting because they got engaged with the diamond ring in the box,
Right, right.
which I feel like that's got to have some kind of magic powers or whatever.
Well, every piece of jewelry has some sort of magic
Yeah.
power in Middleton. It's a requirement.
Yeah. But this is literally, what is it? Is it Elizabeth Merriwick? Is that the ancestor?
Well, that's
I
the
forget
gray
her name.
lady.
Yeah, yeah, Elizabeth.
Right,
And it's their diamond ring. And so it's
right.
gonna be fun to
That's
see.
got to be something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely. Well, and in one of the well, this is getting into speculation, but in one of the first looks, Catherine Bell talks about how their magic is getting a little spotty, getting
right.
a little.
Well, she had said something about. I saw the same thing. She had said something about, like Cassie's magic is like doesn't work quite so well with people that she loves, which
Right.
I find an odd statement because she's been surrounded by people that she loves this whole time, and we've never seen her magic not work
Except for the
properly.
fact that obviously it didn't work with Jake. I mean, if you're going
Right.
way back, she couldn't
That's
save Jake.
right.
Yeah, one of my favorite episodes ever of the show was when Abigail is kind of matching everybody up with her chocolates and flowers
Right.
in her store. That was really fun to have all these different people coming in and her kind of playing sort of little matchmaker with her magic chocolates.
Well,
I
the
would
other
love more like that.
well, do you remember also there was an episode where Cassie was out of town for some reason, and there were like 5 or 6 guests at Grey House, which apparently
Oh
has
yeah,
it's like a
yeah.
TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside than the outside because it has so many
Right.
rooms. But but and so Abigail was trying to do what Cassie does, like pairing people up and
Yeah.
trying to
It
get them
was
in. And it was a disaster.
yeah.
They were completely wrong. And it just goes to show you that just because you have this power, it's also like the experience of
Yeah.
that Cassie brings. And that was a great
That
thing
was a
to
good
sort of
one.
differentiate between Cassie and Abigail and what makes them different.
Yeah, that was a good one. And it's interesting because it's the good witch, but really I would say that Cassie and Sam have remained pretty consistent as far as their character. We haven't seen they're not like the most dynamic characters you've ever seen. They're pretty consistent as far as their highs and lows.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think James Denton is probably one of the best actors on the show,
Mhm.
and I say that because I've never seen him in anything else. I've only seen him on this show, but every time I look at him, especially when he's in the hospital and he's doing his doctor stuff,
Yeah.
I believe every second I'm watching the show, I believe that he's a doctor. I believe that he's there and he's a surgeon and he's doing his thing,
Yeah.
and he's so believable to me. Um, so
Yeah.
and their relationship is great. I'm so glad that they got them
Mhm.
together ultimately. If you go back far enough, do you remember when like Stephanie was chasing after him when he first came to town?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, those were the days.
Yeah. And they did a pretty good job. I know that Nick was on the show like for 2, 3 episodes or so last season.
Right.
Uh, and I don't think he'll be on at all this season. Maybe a cameo, but they did a good job, I think, transitioning, because he was so good with Nick and with Grace in scenes together. I think that he was very good. So that transferring him over to Empty Nester with Cassie, their characters, and making that work, and that's going to be a hard transition for a show to
Right.
kind of go through. And I think they did a pretty good job with that last season with Cassie and Sam, and not giving them too much conflict, because you don't want them to like, are we going to break up or something stupid like that. That would be frustrating. But
There's no chance that they're
right.
breaking
So you
up.
want to give them just enough conflict that they're not boring, but not too much.
Right. Right.
That's the key. And you also had things like Cassie going to school, and she's going to be a teacher at the college,
Right.
and a few other things. But a lot of her time was spent with Abigail and Joy on this mystery.
Yeah, and I think I have a feeling that's, again, this is getting into speculation, but I have a feeling that's also where it's headed with these bags of dirt or whatever that has showed up at
Yeah,
the
we're
end of
gonna.
last season.
Yeah,
They've got to pursue that, and obviously the three Merriwick women received these bags, so it's got to be something involving the Merricks somehow.
yeah. I mean, I would say the plot point that was my least favorite last season was the whole Adam going on the mission, and Stephanie and Adam, and
Well,
um
here,
yeah.
here's the thing about that, because I've always, ever since you guys did your podcast about this, I've been
Yeah.
wanting to talk about this. Um, I know you guys all preferred Vincent to Adam for
Yes,
Stephanie.
and he's back. Did you see that?
I did. I'm not happy about that
Woohoo!
because
Oh no!
Vincent was always too sketchy for me. I thought for sure that they were going to reveal when he was talking about I'm in charge of this fleet and we sail around the world. I thought that was all going to be a lie, and he was going to be some down and outer that just has to lie. But it didn't turn out to be that way. But okay. But so for Stephanie, I prefer Adam over Vincent. However, last season Wes showed up, her ex-husband, played by
Yes.
Kylie Evans' real husband in real life. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the chemistry between those two
Yes.
is just leapt off the screen. I was like, I want Wes back so
Yes.
badly. And
I
again,
so agree.
speculating a little bit, but we saw in the trailer there's some new guy for Stephanie. Did you see?
Yes.
I have no idea who that is. I think it's a new
I
person, right?
it just flashed, and I couldn't find anything anywhere about new casting. I I looked all over that I could find online. I couldn't find anything. So I don't
Right,
know who that guy is, but yeah, that's true. There was somebody. And
right.
I mean, it'll always, cuz I love Ben and
Oh, Ben
Stephanie.
was the best for Stephanie.
Makes me so sad. I was like, "Can we just bring him back, please?"
I know. I think
But
that was, well, see, again, that was an actor thing, I believe. Like the actor
yeah,
became not available, but at least they did. It's not like they came back the next season and there's no mention of Ben. I mean, it was
right.
just a line or two of dialogue, but at least they said, yeah, we broke up and Ben moved out of town or whatever.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And that happens quite frequently. I think it was especially weird that it happened mid-season, just after with Carter, just after they were building up to this romantic party thing. It was so weird. But yeah, I don't know. I just Adam is hard. I struggle with his personality. And I guess the thing I think about the whole mission thing is I feel like that's usually a kind of problem that is for younger people, that they are
Sure.
having to decide to do a mission, or to join the Peace Corps, or you know what I mean? Something like that.
Right.
And for him to all of a sudden, out of the blue, come up with this idea that he's going on the mission trip, and I don't know, it was all really weird and just not. There was a side of me that was just like, "Just go, and Stephanie, move on,
Right.
please."
Well, he is back this year, as we
I
know.
know. And
But it doesn't seem like they're together. So maybe they just decided
yeah,
not to be together, which is fine by me.
fine with
Um,
me too.
right. And
Like
just
keep
get
him
Wes back.
there.
Get Wes back.
Yeah, and he like wanted them to save his job. Again, that's something you think of for like a younger person, not somebody that's. I mean, what did we figure Stephanie is?
Oh,
At
age
least,
wise? Oh,
I mean,
early 40s, maybe?
yeah, like at least late 30s.
Right, right.
Yeah, and that's just not the kind of thing that like usually you deal with when you're in your late 30s is your boyfriend going off to join a mission or a Peace Corps or
Well,
whatever.
I would love a storyline for Stephanie that doesn't involve a new business she wants to open or a
Yeah,
relationship. It seems like that's all the stories that she gets.
right.
Um,
It's
and
true.
at least because I love Stephanie. She's a great character. I just
Yeah,
wish they would do more with her. It's not that they don't give her lots of storylines. They do. She's a big part of the show, but it's always the same thing. Oh, here's a
yeah,
relationship. Is it going to work or not? Or I want to open up a new business. I think she rivals Cassie for the number of businesses that one person can operate at a time.
right. Yeah, you're right. That I agree. I definitely agree. And so we also have that Martha, ha- she was involved with the whole mystery kind of thing
Right?
last season, and then kind of a big reveal is that her daughter-in-law has come and is pregnant. And
Right.
at first she's kind of micromanaging that, and as Martha would be likely to do. And so now I guess that's going to continue into this next season, from what I read.
That's great. I love the idea of Grandma Martha,
Yeah.
or whatever she said to call her. I can't remember now. She had a thing. I think that's great. Anytime you can get Martha out of her comfort zone,
Yeah.
it's gold. It's comedy gold. Um,
Yeah. And it seems like her and this daughter in law have very similar big personalities. There should be some, I think, some good humor from that.
Hope so. I mean, Martha is great. What I wish they would do with Martha. I mean, she's fabulous.
Yeah.
Everybody loves her. I actually, when they started talking about, oh, she had to run for reelection, or when she lost her mayorship briefly there, I would love to like have Martha no longer be the mayor for whatever reason. Maybe
Hmm.
she, maybe there's a election, or maybe she just like there's a term limit, or who knows what. But like, I would love to see her in different environments because I think the mayor thing is kind of played out. Like you said, when
Hmm.
they were doing the thing where she was going to be like a TV host or
Oh,
something
I'll
like that.
never forget the comptroller interview. I want them to have the what do they call it? A closed network. I can't think of the public
Public
access.
access, yeah,
Oh, I wanted to have that show again so bad. That was so funny and had so much potential.
right.
They
And
got rid of it way too fast.
way too fast. I mean, they should have kept Martha out of the mayor's chair. I mean, indefinitely, really, just
Yeah.
just because. I mean, seeing Martha like now without any of the power that she has is really
Yeah.
interesting. And Catherine Disher is such a wonderful actress.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I can't wait to again, this is now speculation, but in the trailer or whatever, one of these videos that they put out, you saw like I don't know if it's Martha's twin sister or who, but Catherine Disher's playing like a dual role.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I didn't know if it would be like a fantasy sequence.
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
if
but
there is a twin Catherine Disher, I will die. That will
I
be amazing.
I am here for it. I am
Yeah,
here
me
for it
too.
100%. Especially if she's no longer doing the sort of like woohoo, woohoo, but doing something more like serious. Like I mean, because Catherine Disher
Yeah.
can pull it off,
Oh yeah.
and I think that would be just comedy gold. So
Yeah.
I hope that they. I mean, I'm sure it will probably just be a one episode thing because
Yeah.
like it probably could get old after a while. But I mean, I think it could be great
I
comedy.
think they also missed out and on not having Mayor Martha by Sam's house. Because how
Mm,
hilarious would that have been if Martha lived across the street from Cassie? That
right.
would have been so funny.
She would have been like that neighbor on Bewitched, right?
Yes.
Well, the other problem that is if you remember, if you go back to the movies,
Yeah.
originally Martha was like the she was like the bad guy. I mean, she was like against.
Right.
She was trying to drive Cassie out of town, saying she promotes this black magic in her little shop and all that. I mean, obviously, we've
Yeah.
any kind of like let's run them out of town because they're witches is gone. Everyone seems to sort of know that she's a good witch, and
Right.
is okay with that.
Because I think everybody has benefited from her intuition at this point. So you're like, I
Right,
can't be mad about it.
right.
And yeah, she has definitely changed a lot since the movies, that's for sure. But I think that this thing with her daughter-in-law, hopefully it won't just be a couple episodes. Hopefully it'll be a like an arc through this season. I think that has a lot of potential to be funny and sweet. And Martha dealing with a baby and all
Right.
of that, I think could be really fun.
What do you feel about Donovan's mother and Martha and their sort of
Yeah.
relationship and history?
Well, I feel like they didn't do very much with that. It had a lot of potential. Donovan's mother, in general, to me, was a big missed opportunity because she presented when they first introduced her. I was like, "Ooh, this lady's gonna be really, she's gonna be really evil and fun and campy, kind of that I like." And it's kind of like the Pecks on Chesapeake Shores. They introduce them, yes, and then they don't do anything with them.
Right.
That's how I felt. Didn't they come to kind of the whole thing with the land in the well and that whole episode? Didn't they
I
kind of come to a
They definitely came to an
agreement?
understanding, but also like Martha's mother, who I'm sure has an Dottie is her name. When with the whole engagement between Abigail and Donovan, she sort of has turned around to be, she's no longer against the marriage and all that. So I think they're trying to reform her character a bit.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some conflict between Donovan and Abigail and his mother as far as the wedding planning. I
Oh,
think,
one can only imagine.
yeah, that would be very hallmarky
Right.
to do. We still have the same writers from last season that we had this season, same showrunners. So that should be fun. Supposedly, they say on the little thing that's less about Middleton and more about the characters and the people. So I don't know exactly. There'll be just less of sort of the lore of Middleton, maybe,
I
or
wouldn't mind that. I mean, I don't know how much we can dwell on the Merowicks. I mean, like,
Mhm.
I mean, there's a family tree that you could build, and there's cousins and second cousins and third
Yeah,
cousins, and it's like we get it. If the idea is like less of that and like the history of Middleton, like the well and all this other stuff, and more about sort of a little bit more grounded in what's going on with our characters now, I'm okay with that.
yeah. Well, and then they also say in one of the previews, it says there's going to be a lot more romance this year, and then it shows George with his girlfriend. I forget her name,
Samantha.
Samantha, and so that sounds like that's going to be something. And then it showed this new guy for Stephanie that you mentioned,
Right,
and then it shows a little moment with Joy and a woman.
right.
Yeah, that we have not introduced. And I looked around again for new casting. I couldn't find anything. I don't know who that actress is,
I
but
think I think I was looking around a little bit on social media as well. Isn't she from that show, that other show that the actress who plays Joy is
the
on? Isn't
Wyatt Earpers.
Yeah, the one she's from Winona Earp, I think.
I wondered about that because I heard a lot of people talking about it. I wasn't sure if it was just because Joy was in it or if it was. Let me see. It was that Dominic Provost, maybe? And because Cat
Maybe.
Barrel looks like her, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, I I don't know, but if that's what it looks like, that might be her.
Right. It might
Dominic
be.
Provost is on Wynonna Earp.
Don't quote us on it,
Yeah,
but it
that's
might be it might be her.
sure. But if they do that and they have joy in a relationship with a woman, that would certainly be a new
That
dynamic for Hallmark.
it definitely would. I mean, Hallmark has started to do it. There were a couple of Christmas movies last year
Hmm.
that had a same sex relationship. I think not as the main relationship, but as like the side characters. So it's not unheard of. I actually think it's a fantastic idea.
Hmm.
That's where they're going to go, because at least it's something different,
Right.
than what we've seen before. I also just want to say, because I've always complained in the past. I think when I was a guest on your podcast, I complained about this. I love George, but they never do anything with him. He is like
Right.
got the least amount. All he does is carry in the bags and fix the plumbing.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
they had Samantha on last season, and they had that one episode where they were sort of flirting with each other, and then nothing for the rest of the season, I thought it was going to be one of those one and done, and then they never mentioned it again. So I'm so happy that she's back this season, and it looks like he's going to get a relationship, because I think that's a fantastic
Yeah.
plot line.
Like if they weren't going to bring back Carter, then sure, why not? Try something new. And especially if she is the person on this Wynonna Earp show, then what a good chance to bring over an audience over to the Good Witch, which
Absolutely,
would be cool.
absolutely.
And just to bring a whole new audience to Hallmark in general, because I mean, everybody will have a relationship that they can relate to and that they like. And I mean, this is obviously assuming that it's done well, but if they've already been successful in a previous show, you can imagine that they'll have chemistry and that things will be great. And so, yeah, I have no problem with it, obviously, and I think it could be really cool. I mean, we don't know. Hopefully they won't hopefully they won't bait us that that's what we think they're going to do and then they don't do it. That would be kind of annoying.
That would be bad. I mean, either
Yeah.
do it or don't. If you're teasing it like that and then don't
Yeah.
follow through. But on the other hand, I mean, it's going to be a Hallmark romance, which is the most chaste sort of like,
Sure.
making googie eyes at each other. That's what a Hallmark romance is. That's what you come to expect. It's not going to be
Yeah.
anything more than that.
Right.
But you're right. If they, especially when it was right there in that trailer, I mean, if they did that and then it ends up being not a romantic thing and it was some other kind of connotation of that shot, because it was really just one shot, like that's not
Yeah.
cool. That's not cool to bait like that.
Right. Agreed. Well, so one interesting element to this upcoming season is that it was shot later than it typically is shot. And so we are not going to have, at least according to what I read, we aren't going to have a Halloween episode. We may actually have a Christmas episode,
Oh,
which is interesting. That could be fun.
that could be fun. I mean, it's a little weird though, isn't it? Because I mean, they always used to do the Halloween movie, and it
Mhm.
would air, around Halloween, and then it's sort of in between the seasons we'd get that Halloween movie, and
Yeah.
then because of COVID, obviously they weren't able to get that understood, and they did shoot the regular show a little bit later, but they're airing it now. Are they going to air a Christmas episode in
Yeah.
July or August? I
Which
mean,
wouldn't
maybe.
be that uncommon for shows. I feel
Right.
like I've seen that before in a lot of shows, but they have done a Christmas movie before, way back, The Good Witch's Gift.
They did,
Yeah,
and Christmas Eve, I believe, is Cassie's anniversary with Jake.
right.
And will
Yeah.
they bring that up if they do a Christmas episode?
Yeah, I would. Why not? That would be
You would
good.
think. You would think.
Yeah. And you could have maybe even another Christmas wedding
Oh, there you go.
with with one of these couples, with Abigail and Donovan, probably.
Well,
And
one would
so
imagine.
I think that could be really fun. I would love to see Middleton decked out in Christmas, and the gray house with Christmas lights. We've never seen that before.
Right, and they shoot the seasons that they shoot in, because they shoot up in Toronto. Like, as we know from seasons past, by the time they get later into the season, there's real snow on the ground up there. Obviously,
Yeah.
depending on what weather they get, but they could certainly do a Christmas episode and have like snow and everything. I mean, sometimes it's a little silly. Remember the chocolate episode where they were doing the chocolate festival or whatever it was?
Oh, yeah.
And they had to do it. I mean, I'm sure it was a production thing that they had to do it like right in the middle of the snow, and it looked a little silly.
Yeah.
Everyone's outside
That's right.
at this, tasting chocolate, and it's like snowing like crazy.
Yeah, that's
you think they
true.
would have just moved it inside somewhere, but what can you do?
Yeah. So it turns out we did get a little summary from Hallmark channel about episodes 1 and 2. We won't go too much into it, but the conceit of the first season is that the first episode is they're doing a movie in the park, and it's going to be Grease, I guess, is the movie they're going to be watching, which sounds fun to me.
It does sound fun. Everyone dressed up in 50s
Yeah.
outfits. Yeah, that could be cool. I mean,
hmm
ordinarily, we've seen them all dressed up before in period garb in like 1800s, for some of their festivals. Middleton doesn't do anything halfway. They when they throw a festival, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that could be a lot of fun. See
Yeah.
everybody like dressed up in like leather jackets, or the pink ladies or whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
See
it's kind of funny because Grease is actually not Hallmark friendly, really, at all. When you
No.
actually think about it, when the messaging and the things of the, but it's kind of packaged in nice packaging. But
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah,
It's interesting. I mean,
hmm
maybe Hallmark is, perhaps,
experimenting.
they're in a transitional
Yeah,
period for sure. And they're trying to maybe, see what will work in the sort of new way, but at the same
yeah,
time keeping their old audience. I mean, they're very aware of what their brand is, but I think they're just trying to expand and sort of like, see where they fall in the new reality, as it
yeah,
were.
yeah, and that's going to be really interesting to see with this new CEO and new kind of philosophy that we've already seen we have some influence, but then I think this next year we're really going to see that influence more than we were
Right.
able to see last year because of the pandemic, but also because things were already it takes a cycle, I think, or maybe even more.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to find out about these bags of dirt.
What
What
do
do
you
you
think?
think about?
Well,
Yeah.
as good as you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's, because it feels like it's gonna obviously it's related to the Merowicks. I mean, could it be like the soil of the first, is it something like that? Like this is the soil from the ground that the first Merowicks landed, in Middleton
It's
with, or
like Plymouth
something
Rock
like
or
that.
something like
Right, right.
that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I it's got to be something like that. There's got to be some kind of because wasn't she also like planning some kind of garden in the back? Cassie was.
Oh,
There
that's
was like, or
right.
maybe it was Joy. I can't remember, but they were like making a little garden.
Right, that was when Joy first showed up, because they dug up the time capsule that had the photos of Joy's mother, and
Yes,
that's how we found out that Joy was a Merriwick. Well,
and
it had
so I think it might have maybe they'll grow something, or I don't
mm,
know. It's
ooh, that's interesting.
yeah,
But it has to be something magical because it just showed up. Like
yeah,
like like I think Abigail said this showed up on my desk at my house or something. Like it's somebody had to,
yeah.
either somebody's breaking into their houses to leave these bags of dirt, or there's some sort of magic involved.
It's like in
Um,
Batman v Superman, the floating dirt. Ooh, what does that mean? We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So Vincent is back, which I'm sure they don't listen to the show, but maybe they listen to the show. I feel like we're like definitely the most Vincent fans, and the fact that he was back, there was a side of me that was like, they're listening to our show.
As long as they don't try to put him with Stephanie, I'll be fine. I mean, do we know at all what his storyline is or anything?
Let's see. Did it say? So this is actually, it's in episode 2. It says Cassie's foster brother Vincent goes in a search of his birth mother and makes another connection instead. Ooh.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so I don't think it's Stephanie.
No. Well, obviously there's this new guy for Stephanie, whoever that might be. And it's not going to be Adam, which is fine. And it's not going to be Vincent, which is great. It just needs to be Wes. This is the bottom line. They need to bring Wes back.
Oh, I would love that so much.
I mean, is he an actor ordinarily? Is he on another show or something?
I think he is. I know that they host a game show together, but I'm pretty sure he also does acting.
Yeah, he needs to. He needs to come back.
He was good, and they were, of course, I mean, but that's not always the case. We know that sometimes couples, it can be a little weird. It can be a little awkward on screen together.
I have to say, when even with Ben, as much as I love Ben, and I know we're all big Ben fans here, even with Ben, I felt Wes was the first time I saw Stephanie with somebody, and I said to myself, I could see them together forever. So...
and it would be such an interesting plot for her to reconnect with her ex-husband. I feel like that is something that we wouldn't expect from a Hallmark show.
Well, even in the episode, they were, once they reconnected a little bit, they both said to each other, like, do we even remember why we got divorced? Because it seemed so great. And then the only reason she kind of pushed him away again is because of Adam. Well, if Adam's off on his mission or he's back and they're not together, then that's not an obstacle anymore. So she should be dialing up Wes and see what he's doing.
I would love that so much. I don't know if I dare to hope for that, but it would be great if you're listening, Hallmark Channel. But yes, so then we have also Joy dreaming about her parents. And so I think we might learn more about Joy's father.
Now,
not just her mother.
Are both her parents dead? Didn't she mention that her parents died in a car accident or something?
Yeah, that's why I think she's dreaming. It said that she's dreaming about her parents.
Right.
Let's see if I can find it on here.
Well, is it one of these dreams? I mean, it's a Merriwick, so it's not just a dream, because we've established before, have we not, that Joy's dreams sometimes come true?
Yeah.
Remember, she was all worried when she was dreaming about other things, and she was like, sometimes my dreams come true. That's part of her little brand of Merriwick magic. So, depending on what the dream, maybe she's dreaming that they are alive, and maybe we'll find out somehow they're still alive. That could be interesting.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, and I would like to see it. So I hope that it'll be good to see some more depth to Joy's character. As we said, I like Joy last season, and so I think that'll be good. And we also are having a little bit of conflict, evidently, between Cassie and Sam, where they are like two ships in the night. They said in one of the previews, because his schedule, and she has like 3 jobs. So that's a challenge that they're going to be working on.
You can only imagine that that's an ongoing problem. I mean, he's a doctor, so he's always on call or whatever. He doesn't seem to have his office practice anymore, does he? That just sort of disappeared. and now he only
Right.
really works at the hospital. So I don't know where the people in Middleton go when they just need a regular doctor's appointment. I guess they have to go
Yeah.
over to Blairsville to the hospital.
Heaven forbid.
Blairsville.
Blairsville. Yeah,
But
and because Cassie, she doesn't even have her daughter-in-law, I forget her name,
Lori.
that would work. Lori, not Lori,
Oh,
the other,
oh, right.
that would work at the store.
Brendan's wife. I'll think of it in a second. But yeah, I mean, we have to presume. I have to presume that she has help that works at the store. Otherwise, 90% of the time, there's nobody in that store. You know, she has to, Tara. Thank
Tara,
you.
yeah.
But
So, because Tara used to help her at the store, and now
right.
she has nobody.
She must have like some background extra that we don't ever see, because she's off teaching at the community college. She's running the bed and breakfast. Although she has
Yeah.
George helping her there, and it seems like Abigail maybe helps out sometimes, but Abigail also has her own business. So there's no way that if that store is closed whenever Cassie isn't there, then that store is making no money. And it's there's got to be like somebody else that covers shifts that we just don't know about.
I mean, this is a hallmark pattern that we've been seeing is these women with like 3 jobs, and they on One Calls the Heart, it's been kind of a running joke that we've had that Clara on One Calls the Heart, that she has 3 jobs. She works in the
Women know how to multitask.
works in the cafe, works in the barbershop, and works in the dress shop.
Right.
But
Women
yes,
know how to multitask.
I
So,
guess, yeah.
you
Makes me feel lazy.
know.
But so then we have, Adam is back from his mission, and so hopefully there'll be like, what I think could be fun is some conflict between Adam and this new guy.
Right.
That could be fun.
Oh, the Stephanie's mysterious new guy.
So he's jealous and all, and
I wonder if Adam is going to be around for the whole season or not. I speculate that he comes back for first maybe couple of episodes and then isn't on any longer. But I mean, is he obviously coming back from his mission? I mean, because we never actually saw him leave on his mission.
yeah,
But we presume he's coming back from the mission at
Yeah.
the beginning of the season.
He's on the cast, we know that. So
Right.
he's either coming back or I guess doing some kind of we see him on the mission, but
Right.
but yeah, so that's sort of our thoughts. I think that it's a season with a lot of potential. I'm excited. I'm excited to cover it. I think it's going to be really fun. And our plan, just some housekeeping, our plan, just like we did with One Calls the Heart, is to cover bi-weekly. We are going to cover, let me put my calendar. So we are going to cover the premiere. And then we are actually, Cammie, our co-host, is actually going to cover the next episode because I'm going to be out of town Memorial Day weekend. And then we will just be every 2 weeks. And it should be really fun. And I'm excited. And thank you again for agreeing to help us with this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. This is so much fun. I can't wait to see what this season brings. So thanks for having me on this.
Just comment on our social media at Hallmarkies Podcast and Hallmarkies Pod with your comments or in the comment section on YouTube, and let us know what you think, what you're excited for with the new season. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, so check that out. And also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us out a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We're just about at 3K on our YouTube, so if you can help us get there, we sure would appreciate it. And we also have our Patron group, and we are doing our watch along this month with director Michael Damian, and we're going to watch The Christmas Waltz with him, and that's going to be so fun on the 14th. Only $2 a month to join the Patreon, and there's all kinds of other benefits that you can get. So check it out. The information will all be in the description. And then we also have our merch store, which has some goodies inspired merch that you definitely don't want to miss. Check that out. We'd really appreciate it. And thanks so much, Randy. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk again about the premiere.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.